Hey everyone, and welcome back to Country Music Made Me. Thank you so much for joining us once again. As always, please make sure you are liking, sharing, following, subscribing to us on whatever streaming service you are listening on. Leave us a review, a rating, tell your friends, your family, your neighbors to come on over and have a listen. That support is huge each and every week. This week, we're joined by Chase Wright. He's an up-and-comer in Nashville who grew up playing sports rather than music. But when college hit, so did the music bug. And in 2019, after graduating college, he moved straight to Nashville with a management and a publishing deal. In 2020, he hit the ground running as an artist with a number of successful releases, and he is set for big things over the next year. So please enjoy our conversation with Chase Wright.
I got caught out, and so I am currently pulled over in a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, and my phone is connected to my car, and some weird thing, I don't know. I was really hoping that I could both charge my phone and talk to you, and you could hear me, and everything's good. So.
Okay, perfect. That's awesome. Hopefully it'll last the whole time then. Let's talk about the weekend. Were you back home or back at your
Yes.
old college playing soccer?
So I was back home in Lebanon, Indiana. So every year my high school team does this alumni game, where the alumni come back and play the current high school team. And my cousin is a junior in high school. And so I don't know how next year's touring schedule is going to be and stuff. So I wanted to make sure I got back when I could. So I left Saturday morning from Nashville at 3 a.m. to get to the soccer fields at 9 a.m. and for the game at 10 a.m. and then drove back that evening at 6 p.m. because I had to finish up some songs here in Nashville at 1 the next day. So it was a long weekend, but went back, and so much fun. So great to see my family members I don't get to see too often. I go back maybe 4 times a year. So that was really good to see them, but it's such a shock going from being in shape, running in college, to then taking a year off and not really doing any sort of sprints or anything, and then going back and trying to play a full-length soccer game. Just absolutely terrible.
Yeah, it's crazy how quickly you lose it, right?
Oh my gosh. My dad actually made the comment to me. He was like, this is the first time I've ever seen you get caught on a soccer field. And I'm like, yes, believe me, I felt that too. I once was really fast. Now I'm just kind of fast,
It happens. You get older, you lose it. You just have
That's
to
right.
go with it, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk more about that hometown. Growing up, your mother was very involved with music education, and in the community band. Now, you didn't really pick it up at a young age. Do you think it was because your mom was so into it and it was sort of a rebellion thing for you? Do you think if she wasn't involved with it, maybe you would have picked it up earlier?
I don't really know. I think that it was something that I did when I was younger. I started playing trumpet before even my school had band. It was before sixth grade. I can't remember what age. But I think it was just because I didn't think it was the cool thing to do, right? And so I kind of wanted to get out of it, and then she kept me in it because she's like, you're good at this, you should really stick it out, this and that. And I think she really wanted me to play trumpet, and I really didn't have the passion for it. I obviously had a passion for music, right? But I was so scared for what people were going to think about me, I think, or what they were going to say or make fun of me for doing whatever. And so that's what I was really worried about, I think, at the time. I don't know if it was so much resentment as it was just trying to fit in with the crowd of people I wanted to fit in with.
Right. And can you still play the trumpet?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I can still make sounds. My mom actually filmed I filmed an Instagram story I think it was last year maybe, where I picked up her trumpet and played a little bit on it. I can still make sounds, but I have to have her tell me what valves to push down, because I completely forget all things to do with what note is what and all that. But yeah, I can still make noise out of it.
And I think it would be epic to have like just a random trumpet solo in one of your songs, where even if it's just live on stage, whip out the trumpet and learn a little something and put a
Oh
solo in
my
one of your
gosh.
songs?
My mom has been trying to get me to put like trumpet in something. And she was like, "Hey, like I could always play on one of your tracks if you ever want a trumpet in there." I'm like, one of these days I'm like gonna have to do it. But I was like, trumpet's just that's kind of a hard instrument just to tuck somewhere, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It kind of stands out.
Right.
And so you were in the choir in seventh grade, and that's
Yes.
kind of the last time that you sung in front of people until your later teens. So, what do you
You're right.
remember of that experience in choir? Did it, like, did you have a bug for it at that point where you thought maybe it was something you wanted to do later on, but just didn't quite have the passion for it then? Or was it just really something to do?
It was, I think I moved to choir because my mom was like, well, if you don't want to be in band anymore, I want you to do something musical. So I was like, well, I have a bunch of friends that are in choir, so let me go do choir. And so I went and did choir for a little bit, and it was fun. I really didn't take it seriously. I never did any, solos or anything. I just sort of like hid, I guess, in the back, and we had to do like this final test where I like remember this like vividly, where my teacher would play a note on the piano and we had to match it.
Oh,
And it
okay.
was like that was, and so he would just play notes and we had to match it, but we were in front of people when we had to do it too. And so I was singing in front of people and I was so embarrassed. But I don't even really think I had like a real passion for it then. The like, funny thing is I had like always sang. I'd sang in the shower, I'd sang in the car, I sang in front of people as part of this like preschool convocation, this like 9/11 memorial service. When I was 5 years old, I sang "God Bless America" in front of like 2,000 people, and then
Oh, wow.
I went and sang the like national anthem for some high school games when I was like 5 or 6. And so I like always sang a little bit, but then I really stepped away from it when I thought that people were going to make fun of me or whatever. I don't know. I was just trying to fit in, and I cared too much about what people thought, and I think that's sort of what when I stepped away, but I didn't really pick it back up again until I got to college, and I'd always wanted to learn guitar, and I didn't really. And again, I just didn't want people to make fun of me, I guess. And so when I got to college, I was like, well, if I start now, people will only know me by the guy who plays guitar. They don't know me from anything else. And so I picked up guitar freshman year of college and started going from then.
And talk about that guitar. Was that the $20 garage sale special that
Oh
your
yeah.
dad
Oh,
bought
the
you?
$20 the $20 garage sale special. It was it actually had a bowed neck. It was broken where the like body of the guitar meets the neck. It was broken, so it like bowed really bad, and it had super thick strings on it. So pushing the strings down were very very hard, and so I think that was honestly really great for me because I really learned how to push the strings down hard, because if I didn't, there was no sound coming out of that. And it was very shortly after that when my dad was like, "Well, if you can learn on this, then we can upgrade to something nicer." And so I upgraded to a like $100 Epiphone after that. But yeah, that $20 garage sale. I'm actually so mad. I sold it at another garage sale for $15, and I wish I would have had it now. I went and repurchased the same model, but of course, it's not the same exact guitar.
Right. Yeah. And when you went to college, I saw your little the video history that you did on
Yeah,
YouTube, the four or
yeah,
five parter. Now, was
yeah.
there a small little room that you found in your college dorm outside of your dorm that you would practice in?
Yeah, so that was my college fraternity house, and in our basement, where it was just chaotic down there. But there was this like little closet room that didn't have anything in it, so I just like sat on one of these big old speakers or whatever, and I would go down there and practice and play. And that was the only place where I could have privacy, where people wouldn't hear me, and I could, film videos or write songs or whatever. And it was because that was one thing, you don't really have any privacy when you're in a fraternity house. Like everything is pretty much everybody's, and so
Right.
I needed to find somewhere to where I wasn't just in my like room, like where everybody could hear me playing guitar and stuff like that, because that's kind of what I was doing in my freshman dorm room, and I had to play like super quiet, and I was embarrassed because people in the hallway could hear me and stuff like that. So it was honestly really really nice. I filmed so many videos down there. I wrote like I think my first two songs or something down there, and yeah, it was like such a really like ugly environment, but it was so nice, and I think I really needed it for those like formative moments.
And how long were you playing down in that room before you started posting on Instagram and finally got the courage to have other people hear you?
I so I think I posted on Instagram and stuff the very first time, in between the summer of freshman and sophomore year. So that was sophomore year is when I moved into the fraternity house. So I think I'd already been posting a little bit on Instagram. I hadn't started the Chase Wright Music Instagram page or anything yet. I was
Oh,
still
okay.
posting on my personal page that I'd started, in seventh or eighth grade or something. And so
Oh, okay.
um, I really didn't dive into music like 100%, make it like a thing until probably a year after I started playing in that room, and then I really started to dive into it. I think I started posting a lot more and a lot more frequently on the like music only Instagram and Facebook.
And two experiences from those early days I wanted to ask you about. One was the Smiley radio show,
Yeah,
and when that happened within that time frame, and how that happened.
that was actually so. It's so funny because nobody knew I could sing or knew that I was trying to sing or anything like that. And I had recorded this video of me singing this Jake Owen song, "Life of the Party," and so I had recorded me singing that, and I heard as I was driving. I forget where I was driving to, but I heard on the radio. Smiley radio show is the biggest radio station in Indianapolis. They play like top 40 hits and stuff like that. So not a country station.
Oh, okay.
But they're like, we're doing this like listener talent show where you send us a video of your talent, and if we like it, then you can come into the radio station. You get 60 seconds to perform that talent. People call in and vote for another 60 seconds, right? So then you could potentially get 2 minutes of airtime doing whatever. And I was like, this seems like fun. Like, what are they going to say? No. And then I'm right back to where I was before. And so I submitted this video, and again, I had not posted any video ever of me playing. And they're like, "Oh, we would love to have you on in like 2 days at 10 a.m." And I was like, "Oh, so I should probably like let people know that like I've been doing this like guitar and singing thing." So I posted that video that I submitted to them via email. I posted that video on my Instagram and Facebook, and people were so kind, and all the worries I had about people making fun of me definitely didn't. I mean, that wasn't a thing. People were just really, really nice and left nice comments. And I went on there and sang for a minute, sang "Life of the Party," and people voted. I got 3 yeses, and then I sang "You Should Be Here" by Cole Swindell, and yeah, it was super cool. And I think it gave me that like boost of confidence that like that I maybe had potential, or that I wasn't like completely sucky, because I again didn't really know.
That is awesome. And then another moment was, I believe your friends signed you up for a contest that could win you a weekly gig at the Swizzle Stick. Is that it?
Yeah, well, so my like buddy in my fraternity played guitar, but he couldn't sing, and so
Okay.
he knew that I was trying to sing, and so he just like behind my back was like, hey, dude, I signed us up for a bar gig in 3 weeks, so we have to learn like 45 songs, and I was like, excuse me. He's like, yeah, we got a bar gig, and if we do it well, we could make it sort of a like monthly thing or whatever. And so yeah, so we every day after lunch and dinner would go down to that little room and practice, and we would practice for like an hour, however much time we had, because lunch and dinner was the only times where we were both in the house at the same time every day. And so yeah, we would go down there and practice, and we dialed it in and went did that first show, and it led to many more, and it was a good way to make some extra cash and honing that performance, that live performance aspect of it. And, yeah, I don't know, man, it's hard to say if I would have ever gone out and asked if I could play at the bars, if he hadn't got me into those bars just by not telling me.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Those two experiences, first being on the radio and then playing in a bar, if those
Right.
two wouldn't have happened, would you just right now still be doing covers on your Instagram page, do you think?
Oh my goodness, it's so hard to tell. I think by the time, so those things happen before like the real moment of me like I need to pursue music as a career. I worked corporate, um, and I worked corporate for 6 months as a part of a college program, and I realized that just wasn't for me. I just saw myself doing more than that, and I couldn't see myself sitting at a desk all day every day. And so that's when I really like dove into music and really tried to make it a full-time thing. And so I think once I got to that point, I probably would have, started to do some of those things like reach out to bars and stuff like that. But I feel like I got motivated to do that because I had played out at the bars and I loved it so much and I had fun. So it's like hard to say what I would be doing or if I would have even really gave music a true shot if I hadn't sort of just been thrown into it like pretty wildly.
Yeah. And I believe it was 2018, May 2018, I think, from your Instagram page when you first visited Nashville.
Yeah.
And you were able to go to the Opry. You saw Chris Jansen there. So what did
Yeah.
that trip mean for your eventual move there? Did that trip solidify that, yep, I need to be in Nashville when I graduate?
Yeah, it was absolutely wild. My very first day in Nashville, within hours of being here, my now manager took me to the Grand Ole Opry, some like legendary place, right? And I physically ran into like bumped shoulders with my like favorite artists, like hours after arriving to a town. Like I met Brett Young. I bumped into Shay Mooney. I saw Rascal Flatts. All of these things, like these people that I like idolize and listen to all the time. I'm just like within like yards of them. And I was like, might be the coolest place I've ever been to in my like whole life. And so that was definitely a really cool moment and something that I was like, I cannot wait to one day be here and play here because this place is awesome.
And so your eventual move, you graduate and you do make the move. Now, what
Yeah.
was the feeling like when you were settled in Nashville? You had moved, you were there, and that realization that, okay, yeah, this is life now.
Yeah, so I'd come down for a week every month my senior year of college. So I started coming down this summer between junior and senior year. That was the May of 2018, and so I came down, a week or so every month or every other week during the summer. And then when school started, I made it a monthly thing, and so I was already coming back and forth, but I didn't really have any um, income here. I didn't have anything
Right.
lined up yet. Um, my manager and I talked about a publishing deal where I would get paid to write songs, and that would sort of be like a means of getting by until music starts coming out or whatever. And so we worked a deal there, and I actually signed my first publishing deal a week before graduation, which gave me that like I don't know, that realization that it was a real thing, that I was moving to Nashville, that I've made it a career. I have an income, a full-time job income salary from music.
And what was that like coming here with a publishing deal, knowing that you would have to do a lot of writing? Like, what were your writing chops like at that point when you started that process?
Yeah. So I'd been writing. That's what I would come to town for. That like for a week every month, I was writing a ton.
Oh,
I was writing
okay.
a ton, and I would do probably a month's worth of work in a matter of like 5 days. I would have a doubles every day. I would have meetings on top of that. Each day is a 12-hour day when I would come here for those weeks. We had really made the most of it, and so yeah, I mean, I'd already written a ton. And so I think it was using those songs as leverage is what got me the publishing deal. Plus, I mean, people just believed in my potential, and which I'm super thankful for because I mean, this whole career up to this point, this whole journey up to this point, has been so many people taking chances, and I really do appreciate that because it took me a while to realize because I got thrown into it so new and things happened so quick that like I didn't realize like how lucky I was to have the team that I have, and so that's also been like a really big thing for me too.
And so, how did your confidence build over those years in college? Because I know with My Kind of Morning. That was a song that Matt Jenkins brought into the writing room that day.
Yeah.
And you kind of helped lead it to where you wanted to take it. And I've talked to other
Yeah.
songwriters about, that's a tricky thing when you're starting out as a songwriter to kind of say, no, that's not what I would say. This is what I would say. And so
Yeah.
how confident were you when you first moved to Nashville? Was it like night and day from the first time that you started playing in that little dorm room back at the start of
Absolutely.
college?
Yeah. So much so. And I mean, they like confidence is just, I think, just started to get to where it's like, because before I would think things but not say them because I'm like, these people are way more veteran than I am, like they probably know what's best. And then I just started to get the confidence of like, no, like I belong in these rooms too, like I'm very capable of being in these rooms also. So it was a very gradual process. Early on, I would never challenge anything. I would just sort of go with the flow. And then now I'm left with songs that maybe I would change some things on, that I thought about in the room, but was like, well, maybe why would I know best? I'm like so new at this. And so I vividly remember Matt bringing in My Kind of Morning, and he was just talking about like waking up with his wife and, spending time with her and like all these details about that. And I was like, Matt, there's this there's this thing that just happened to me in college, and I think that it could be a really interesting take on this. Like, I recently just I met somebody in college, stayed up all night long with them, and we did all these wild things. And I was like, I think this could be a really cool song to write. And so he was like, cool, let's like do it. And so we just basically wrote about a real life encounter that I just recently had, a couple weeks before.
And so with that song, when you release it, you have this very vivid image in your mind of what the song means for you. Now, when you start hearing what it means for other people, is that a weird experience of almost letting go of what the song means to you and stepping into their shoes?
Yeah, well, so I think Rob Thomas said it in a way of like, so Rob Thomas, the lead singer of Matchbox 20, but also does his own artist thing, was talking about how people interpret songs in so many different ways, and he never wanted to explain the meaning of the song to him like off the bat. Like, he always just wanted to sit back and let people interpret it the way that they would, and not necessarily put his like look through it through the lens of his meaning or whatever. And so I sort of like early on just like I was like, these are just songs that I like really love that I've written, but never really dove like super heavy into what they meant. And I think I really noticed how songs could impact people in such different ways when it came to my second single, "Wish You'd Miss Me." That song got a decent amount of traction on different platforms, and people would reach out to me saying how it helped them through X, Y, and Z. And I just so many different situations that I could have never even imagined when writing the song. It's helped people get through. And because I mean, I wrote it about a pretty trivial relationship, right? And people are talking about how it's helping them cope with a like parent not being in their life, or losing loved ones, or infidelity in like marriage and stuff like that, that are just so deep subjects that I could have never even fathomed when creating the song, because I just was like writing it from this emotional spot of just getting screwed over in some relationship.
And with your writing, I know I've heard you talk about driving in your Chevy as a youngster back home on the back roads because you grew
Yep.
up in a smaller town. And so
Yeah.
do you pull from that quite a bit when you're writing as well?
Yeah. I most of my songs come from relationships, just because that's something that you can get emotional about. Either you're super happy, super sad, super mad, whatever. You're very emotional about that. But um, the song "Drive" came from one of those moments of the only thing to do in my hometown growing up was go to the Walmart, go to the McDonald's, or drive around. Like, there wasn't anything else to do. And so thankfully, since I've left and gone to college and all that stuff, the last 6 years, the like town and the like surrounding area has gotten much more. Um, they've really developed much more, so there's a little bit more to do. But yeah, so I just really wanted to encapsulate like what I would do when I turned 16. And we would just drive around. We would drive around, drive down back roads. We'd listen to music. We would, it'd be like a group of like five of us packed into somebody's small car, just ripping back roads.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when you went into the studio at the beginning of 2020 to record the first three songs that you
Yeah.
would be releasing, what was that experience like? Because I know you hit the studio in 2019 as well.
Yeah.
But was this a different experience because it was going to be the first music that people heard from you?
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I mean, it was crazy to think that, something you like dream about, like as a like small kid, I'm always like, how cool is it to have a like CD, or like how did it just seems so like out of reach, and for people across the world to be able to hear what you're doing. And I don't know, it was just this really surreal feeling to finally be in this place that I've seen in so many videos, and and watch so many of my favorite artists go into these places and record. And now I'm doing the same thing, and I'm doing it with people that are world class, that have played on so many just massive records. And it was a really really cool moment. And I mean, since those like songs have come out, and seeing how they've made such a global reach, and the like impact that those songs have had. I mean, one of the songs that I recorded in the beginning of 2020 is now my most streamed song, and it's cool to see the people all across the world interacting with these songs.
Yeah, that's amazing because you've done it all in a time when the world was shut down. Like all of your songs basically came out, except for, I believe, the most recent one, when the
Right.
world was shut down, but they all blew up. And so, what has that experience been like?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that the pandemic and the fact that people were left with nothing but being able to stream on their phone or consume social media, I think those factors really did play into our favor, because there wasn't any pressure to go out and tour. There wasn't People who weren't distracted by anything else. Like, they literally, all they had to do was sit on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or Spotify, right? Because there wasn't much else to do. And so I think it really played into our favor when it came to growing social media. Um, but yeah, I mean, now it's like we're leaving ourselves with a base that we can go out and play shows now, and people will be there and know the music, which is a super super cool place to be in. And I can't wait to play some shows here towards the end of the year. And so um, yeah, I mean, I like really do think it played into our favor. But going into it, we were very sort of nervous, I guess. But also, it's like, listen, we could push this off forever and find a reason not to put out music for as long as we can live, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, there's no telling what's going to happen, and so we should just take a chance and really focus on what we can focus on, and hope it works.
And what was that like at that point when you started releasing music and realizing that after, a year or so of making a living being a writer, that now you were finally getting to a space where you could be an artist?
It was like pretty wild. I didn't really know what to expect when getting into it. I hadn't had any music out, obviously, and so I didn't know how many people were actually going to listen to it. I was starting to get some sort of social media following, but that really doesn't matter and doesn't really translate to your music. People could follow you and never listen to a single song. And so we didn't really know what to expect. And I remember talking to my manager, and I had a goal of getting 10,000 streams the first day on my very first song. And it was just like one of those things, like, it was a pretty lofty goal at the time. I was like 10,000 or 10,000 streams the first day. I think I can do it. I think I can do it. And so he like challenged me to do it. And the first day we barely crested 10,000 streams. And I remember he had called me, and he was like, listen, I'm not going to tell you this often, but you were right. I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's all I needed to hear. That was it. But it's just such a cool feeling to make this a career, for it to actually be like viable, for it to, you know, to make money as a business this early in music is like something crazy, you know.
And with the success you've had, do you have to almost temper your expectations? Like every single that you release basically does better and better. And your newest single, I believe, got 500,000 streams in the first week. And
Right.
so, do you have to make sure you're not going into the release with those expectations and get let
Which
down if it doesn't happen?
that definitely happened. That definitely happened. So I mean, we had um Yeah, so it was My Kind of Morning, then Wish You'd Miss Me was the second song. Wish You'd Miss Me. So My Kind of Morning did 10,000 the first day. And then a TikTok video for Wish You'd Miss Me did a little bit, like it got like over 1 million views. And so that song did 100,000 streams the first day. And I was like, oh, this is great. Every release must go like this. I mean, I've only released 2 songs, and the like exponential growth of them has been phenomenal. Third song I put out was Why Should We? And it started off a little bit slow, was getting like 10,000 a day, which was still good. And then it got on a really big country playlist, and and then it's doing well. I'm like, wow, this is really going great. Like, this is awesome. Drive came out, and Drive did like 10,000 the first weekend. And I was like, oh no, this is it. This is where it all comes to die. No. And
Right.
I just had this like built up, like I was like, oh, this is great. Everything's going great, great, great. And then Drive came, and I believed in Drive so much, and I like fought for Drive so much. And it came out, and it didn't really do well initially. And I was like, damn, I think the song like really does have potential. And I think once people hear it, they will like love it and spread it. I think it'll just take a little bit more time. And now Drive, it came out in January, I think, or no, March, and it's just now starting to pick up. And so it's getting like 20 something thousand a day on Spotify, and it got 10,000 the first weekend. So it's picking up a little bit, but I definitely like those expectations are, it's tough to deal with, because you just like, you believe in the music so much, and we've really made a point to like in like our minds put out a better song each time. So we
Right.
like planned it all out, like which one do we think is going to respond the best. Let's put that at the end. And just so where it just sort of ramps up, and people are constantly like, wow, I like this one more than the last. And that was sort of all in our design. But yeah, when things go, it's the ebb and flow really gets to you sometimes.
As much as you want to look forward and look at what's next, do you have to sometimes look back and realize how far you have come in a short time and be grateful for that?
Well, so that I will be the first one to tell you that is my biggest flaw. I feel like, but also I guess plays in my favor a bit. Like, I'm always the type of person that's like, okay, this is great, but how do we get that next thing, and that next thing, and that next thing, and I'm always trying to work towards the next thing. And that happened with like track. I would get a like personal best, and I'd be like, well, how do I get faster? I know I could get faster. And I mean, that's the way it is here with like music. And it's tough for me to like soak in those moments of like really cool things. I think I mean, what there's been like a couple moments, probably like I would say count on one hand moments, where I've really just sat there and like reflected on how far I've come. And one of those moments where my very first ever show in Nashville was with um, uh, Old Old Dominion here at the Bluebird Cafe, and it's one of those
Right.
things that the Bluebird is such a legendary place, one of those bucket list places. Then Old Dominion's a band that I've listened to before I knew how to play guitar, and so that was one of those moments I was like, wow, like this is really really happening. And then when Why Should We got on the Hot Country playlist, the biggest streaming playlist for country music, and like me being one, like the only independent artist amongst all these massive massive artists, like it was one of those moments. I'm like, holy cow, like I'm actually being mentioned in the same sentence as my favorite artists, and I'm on the same playlist with 30 of my favorite artists.
And so when you look forward, like you say, you're an independent artist.
Right.
So when you look at the success you've been able to build with that, do you ever look forward and think, oh my gosh, when I signed that record deal, just think of how much more trajectory I can get behind me?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been a constant conversation, and it's one of those things where it's like, when's the best time to really like shop for that, and do we want to at this moment? Like, we have a whole release schedule up until the end of the year. Do we wait? Um, does you know does is the deal going to look better for us if we wait? There's always this like question of when to really try to get a record deal, because there is so much upside to it. Like country radio is massive, and I
Yeah.
I have yet to hear my song on the radio station anywhere. And so that is just such a big bucket list goal for me, to be able to hear my music played through the radio. And so, but yeah, it's a constant conversation, and it's always evolving. And yeah, so I mean, it is pretty wild to think that me and my fairly small team have been able to do so much so quick. And I feel like like what we have coming for the rest of the year is going to be really sick too.
And you played earlier this year your first full band show, I believe. Now, was that
Yes.
your first ever outside of just playing acoustic or with like one other person?
Yeah. So I mean, I played in like a church worship band and stuff, but nothing of my own. And we did a quick little 3-song set at a whiskey jam here in Nashville. So I got a little bit of taste of what it's like to play with a full band. And it's something that I want to do, like a first like real full band show coming up here before too long. I like want to try to get something going for that. And so yeah, I got a little bit of taste of it. I played like a 14-minute thing, but I really want to get my first like true full band show going here before too long, because I just really that's what I came to town to do, and I'm really jumping at the bit to get that happen.
So that show, was that just players that you put together for that show? Do you have a band forming of members that are going to be with you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just, I mean, the way that it is in Nashville, it's like I have tons of friends that play, but they all play for other artists too. And so
Yeah.
if you have a consistent gig for them, then they'll do it. And if you don't, they'll find somebody who does, and they'll fill in where they can. And so everybody that I played with there is on, tours now with other artists that they weren't playing for at the time. It's just they're always trying to find work. And so I do have people that I play with consistently, and the band that I got for that short set was just like unreal. Like, we could have gone into Nissan Stadium and played that damn thing. Like, they were so good, and so loud, and so much energy. It was like I literally like handpicked the best people that I could ever even like imagine. And because it was during a like COVID time, there wasn't much else going on, so they didn't have anything else going on. So everybody was just like free to do it. And so that was probably the most fun I've had, like playing music, was like rehearsing with them, and just everybody being so good at what they do that it just made it so fun.
That is awesome. And I have to ask, now that you've found this success, what does your mom think from way back in the day of trying to get you to sing and get you into music, and now having your career in music? What does she think about that?
I mean, my parents have been the most like supportive through all this. I can't imagine doing what I'm doing without their support. Like, they wanted me to go to Nashville and to like try it out, and even if it didn't work, like just to give it and like honest effort. My dad works a job that he doesn't necessarily love, and so he really wanted to push me to do something that I loved. And I remember my first trip to Nashville, like my dad took off work and came down with me, and took a couple of days off, stayed here with me. We got to, tour the city for the first time. And so I mean, they're really, really proud, and I've been so supportive through all this. But I think my mom's just happy that I finally got back to music, and she's always trying, like, she doesn't really give too many pointers all too often, but whenever I send him songs early on, she'd be like, maybe like change this to this, or maybe like add a little bit of this in there. And so, but I think that she's just generally happy that I finally made my way back around.
That's awesome. And you talk about your release schedule for the rest of the year. What can we expect? When's the next single going to be dropping?
Yeah, so that's something that we're actually still trying to really hammer in and dial in. We had some meetings about it yesterday, but looks like September we got a track coming, and then we got the sort of the like resolution to this whole release of singles coming up at the end of October. And so yeah, we got a lot of cool things. I got 4 more tracks coming before the year's up, and so just really pumped about those. We actually just finished those up here. That's what I had to get back from home for, was to to go and finish those up, because we were on a tight window there. So I was like, well, I can't stay another day back home. I got to drive back same day. But yeah, we got 4 more tracks coming, and I really do think that like some of the best music I've ever written or recorded are in these 4 tracks.
Thank you guys once again so much for listening. And thank you to Chase for stopping by and sharing his story. Be sure to check out all of the music that he has released over the past year and keep an eye out for new music coming soon. Also, please be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe to us on whatever streaming service you are listening on. Leave us a review, a rating, tell your friends, your family, your neighbors to come on over and have a listen. The support means the world to us each and every week. Thank you once again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Country Music Made Me.